DJ Event Planner will change the way you manage and run your business. Streamline all of your procedures and software into one easy-to-manage system. DJ Event Planner, the ultimate online planning tool.
Welcome everybody, and thank you very much for tuning in on this fine Monday evening. There's no football. There's no anything happening tonight.
You know, we should take up watching football. It could be, the show could be football game off to the side, and you and I are just sitting there like, ooh, did you see that hit? That's what we could do. It'd be obvious. It'd be fabulous.
That would be, but it would be funny because like they're watching us 30 seconds behind. And depending on how we're watching the TV, we could be behind the TV. Oh, that could get interesting.
Well, you think about it, the reaction videos are so hot right now.
They are. So,
I mean, there could be something here. And then what we could do is during commercial times, we could flip over and do reaction videos to people doing a set on YouTube. I'd never play that.
No.
Yeah, what are you doing that down? Yeah.
That beat juggle was all wrong.
You see, those cords aren't even plugged in. Oh yeah, I think we got something here.
And Day, don't worry, we will not make it any better than it always is.
Make it good. I have a friend watching tonight. Oh, gosh, we'd have to make the first show good. That's pressure.
That's too much.
Yeah,
we can't start off the new year with a good show. We'd have nowhere to go from here.
Exactly.
Other than down.
Why would we want to break our record of?
But no, in all seriousness, and tonight we do have a good show, and I think it's very appropriate that we're talking about it this time of year. 5 tips that you can do to help improve your wedding shows. Wedding shows, wedding expos are really what's going to be this month and next month. And if you didn't already have a bunch kicking off, I know I was watching Facebook and I saw a bunch of people posting from this past weekend. They were doing 1 or 2 shows, like depending upon the day. And it was just insane to see what's already there. And yet it's just, that's the life we live here for about the next month and a half yet as well. So these are some tips maybe to help you. Some are going to be more immediate. Some are going to involve a little bit more planning. But depending upon when your show is, you may have that opportunity. And even if you don't, it's something that I would take those notes for and make plans to improve for next opportunity that you have either way.
And I think that what's really cool about tonight's tips is that if it doesn't work for the bridal show, it could work for your desire to become a master chef. No?
No.
Sorry. Okay.
But I will say, if it doesn't work for your wedding show, some of the tips that I'm going to pass along tonight are good ideas for you to keep in mind no matter what.
Excellent.
Because I will say this: wedding shows are not what they were 5-10 years ago. They're just not my experience, I should say. And some of you are probably gonna be like, no, I've had great experience, whatever. 5-10 years ago, the place to find you was a wedding expo. That, it was like the phone book and it was the wedding expo. Maybe not 10, maybe a little bit like 15.
It was going to go a little longer than that, but yeah, I get you.
Where they were still coming in droves to check you out. They might check you out online, but they were still coming in droves to check you out in person. Now they're pre-shopping you. If they know you're going to be at the show, if they have an idea of who's going to be there, the vendors are listed, they're coming with an idea of who they want to talk to and who they don't. And some of these tips are these tips that are going to work for that, but they're also going to work for when they start Googling you in June, because they got engaged, in the spring and they're not having the wedding till next year. And so they're going to start finding that information out. So some of these tips I think are going to be beneficial no matter what time or what type of way that you're trying to recruit those new couples.
Rick's on with us. Good evening, Rick. Mentions that, of course, this is this time of year is more packed with crap to do than any other of the busy DJ months. And I think that's probably one of the things that, even though I used to do we did 3 bridal shows in January, wedding shows, those were busy times. But today, it's not like I'm any less busy when it comes to today in itself. There was the messaging, and these people, as you were saying, Dan, they were doing research on me. those types of things really didn't happen back in the day, because they would go and they'd look in the phone book and say, okay, there's a list of 10 DJs. And then they would see the list of vendors and they would say, oh, I'm going to be able to see these people there. That was research back then. Mm-hmm. Today, it's a different story. Let's jump into it.
All right. So number one, I think this is first and foremost, you need to make sure that your website is up to date, whether that is the look that you're going for, or whether that is a message that you're wanting to convey. It needs to be as up to date as possible. These couples are looking for that. They want that polished look, if nothing else, because if you can't polish up your website, you're probably not going to be very polished looking to them to begin with. And now they can see through some things, don't get me wrong, but if it looks like it was done in 1994, it's just not going to have that appeal. I'm going to go one step farther, especially when it comes to the wedding shows. I would actually create, or have created for your site, a landing page just for your wedding show couples. Whether that's one that they can go through a specialized link, the short URL, or whether that's a QR code that you have available for them to scan, something that takes them to the page so that they're not having to remember as much as they might see at the show. I guess would be a lack of better terms. You can say, I'm doing this. I got this special. ... Hey, here's an idea. I've got a code for you. Take that home, use your phone, check it out. You're going to see what we're offering here at the show, and we can talk a little bit more about it from there. Just something to make it easy. And you mentioned that earlier. We want to make that as easy as possible for them. Give them a place to go that sums up everything that you would try and tell them at a show, maybe. So that they have it in a single spot. And even one step further, video on that site.
Okay. Now I get to riff on, this is fun when you can put the topics out. Now I can riff about it. Let's start with the website. A trend, Dan, in the website world right now, when it comes to many of them, is to make them quicker, simpler, single page experiences. In the wedding market, I was actually listening to someone talk about this on Friday. They were suggesting that the website is really you put very little information there because people are wanting to see those videos. So now I'm going to take them out to my YouTube channel, and I'm going to have my topics that I would talk about. Instead of saying, the greatest DJ, whatever, on my website, I'm going to talk about it in a video over here, whatever it is. I take them out to my Facebook to show them some things. I take them to Pinterest to show them beautiful pictures of some different things. It's become this portal to send people out. And I'm wondering, is that the direction? I mean, was that person accurate, do you think? I mean, is that where we're going to with the new generation of people who are going to be using these things? Are they really looking at the website for anything more than to find contact information and then to go look at the other aspects?
I think there is some false in that. Because this is a different type of lead than the person who's just finding you. And I don't like the idea of sending them someplace. Now, if I'm going to send them to my Instagram, if I'm going to send them to my Facebook business page, something like that, where I want to connect with them and I want them to continually follow with updates and that kind of thing, absolutely, 100%. I think there's some great things there, even Pinterest to a degree. Although I'm not a Pinterest person, but you can embed your YouTube videos, and I think that's key. You've got them on your site. They can contact you via the information that's on your site. Yes, they can leave comments on your YouTube. Yes, you're going to have those tags at the end of your videos, but make it as easy as possible for them. Why have them go one place only to click and go someplace else? On this landing page that I'm talking about.
Sure.
Again, them finding you organically, completely different type of story. I still think you want to make it as easy as possible with the videos. Never have something autoplay. Learn that one. That was one that was hammered in by Ellenberg. Don't ever have something autoplay on your website. But besides that, have it there so if they want to check out the video, click, boom, it loads right there. They can see it. They can watch it. They don't have to go someplace else. And
Rick, of course, just brought up the alternative or the other aspect of it, whereas we are taking them from social media. We catch them looking for that venue, the beautiful wedding at the Holiday Inn in Alexandria, Minnesota. I did that video, and now people find that video, and then they can go, to my website, and then there I can do I think Day mentioned up there having a capture page. to get that, or no, excuse me, Rick mentioned it. I'm sorry. I'm trying to follow along. That a capture page is critical in this day and age for getting that information to make those contacts. So a couple of different thoughts. And I guess my point with this, and thanks, Rick, for jumping in on this, is that there's no one right way right now. And no. You're not going to find that many people who completely agree on everything because, well, some people like, pepperoni in their pizza. Some people like pineapple.
But I will say this, and that kind of only leads to some of our difficulty in staying current and staying ready, is that if you're only focusing your energy on one side of that, whether it's only on the website or whether it's only on your social media, I think you're doing a disservice to your broad audience. Your couples now are using social media like crazy. They're searching. I can't remember. Oh, it was Chris Walshburn, who is a gentleman I got to meet at a workshop recently. He's up in New York, and he actually had a bride who reached out to him through Instagram because she researched his hashtag. She plugged it in. That's how she found him.
Wow. Yeah.
So, and his hashtag was like Rochester DJ or something like that. And so it wasn't anything over the top, but it was something that she did a search through Instagram that popped up, and that's how she reached out to him. If you're not using these things, if you're not tagging, if you're not doing the pieces and having a compliment for both sides, you're missing out, pure and simple.
And if you're wondering how to make all that work for you, you can come to the DJNTV DJ Convention because Rick Webb is going to be on stage talking about a lot of these very things. DJNTV.com/tickets, promo code DJNTV Show 2020. There we go. Okay. I got the commercial in.
John, you just need to hit that. You have that display thing with the buttons. You just need to program one that like pops up like the news stations.
That would be cool.
That would be.
I keep forgetting. I keep
Not
forgetting.
Right now. Don't do it now.
It falls under my cough drop bag. The other part, making it easy. I don't know if that can be overstated. Making it easy in this day and age. I was thinking about it as you were discussing that or mentioning that, Dan. Is back 20 years ago when we were doing these bridal shows, there was no iPads. You weren't taking any information digitally. We literally had a front and a back sheet of paper. People would fill in. They'd fill it in at the bridal show, hand it to us, and in some cases they would hand us that and then hand us a deposit check, a retainer check. It's a different time, that we were taking the retainer check and booking shows at these bridal shows. Things have changed, but back then we could do that, and they would, the mothers. It typically would be the mothers. The bride's like, "Oh, I want more information from them." Well, here's this 2-sided document, and you'd fill that out, and they would fill it right in. And then we saw the changes. Now the brides were coming, and they were coming with stickers, so they could put the stickers on there and not have to enter all the information in. And now today, if you can get them to scan a QR code type of thing, but making it as easy as possible, I think is huge. Definitely huge. So, okay.
And I think, now I'm curious to ask. I'm curious about this. Are the shows near you putting a pressure on? I should say maybe pressure, but they're giving an incentive for the couples to make sure that they're going to every table.
There are some that do that. Not all are really doing that. Quite a few of the shows in our area. At one time, there were 4 in the one city. Now there are none. There were 3 in another major city, and I think there's just 1 that's in that city. They've really scaled back, and you would have the small towns that would try to do something, and they'd get 5 brides type of thing. So we don't see as many as we did at one time, and part of that is just because of the internet. The brides aren't showing up at the shows, and when they do go to the shows, the vendors who are there. Well, there's some very good quality vendors there. Don't get me wrong. It's just they don't have. They were looking for the variety, and it's 7 DJs who are all there to sell them the cheapest, biggest lighting show or something to that effect. They can't get the shopping experience they can by going to the Knot and spending a half an hour on the Knot, and probably could do a lot more in this day and age.
I was just curious because I wondered if that was leading anything to this overload that might be happening.
Yeah, I don't know if it's so much of the overload because they're hitting all the vendors and such, or if it's just that we have now a generation
Absolutely. All right. So I think we beat that one to, pretty much to death. And so number 2, I'm actually going to go a different direction. I did not have this on here, so we may end up with more than 5 tonight.
Yeah, it's okay.
What happens. But number 2, I feel like you've got to go in with a plan to make yourself different. And John, you kind of hit on this where you talked about 7 DJs being at the show and everybody's trying to sell their biggest light show for the least amount of money. And that's not what you're going to do to set yourself different. Find a way to show your personality. So for example, I only do a couple shows, and one of them that I do specifically because I get the opportunity to run the runway show.
Okay.
Right. What's funny is I don't do any MC at all during the show. I hand the mic over to the dress shop owner, and she's talking about all the dresses that are coming out. And I'm just I'm not playing background music. I'm playing something upbeat and something fun during. But I get the pleasure of being able to MC the beginning. I also, because of this, get to do a mini workshop as kind of a trade-off. I'll do your runway show. I'll bring my equipment in and set it all up. As long as I get a chance to kind of address everybody and share like a little mini workshop, 5 minutes, nothing major, about some tip that they haven't thought about. And then I also get to help hand out the grand prizes or the door prizes or whatever at the end. So I get to MC all that. I have gotten so many more so many more inquiries after that show than any of the other ones I do, because that's the one I get to showcase. I think finding a way to showcase your talents, finding a way to set yourself apart with that personality, with that on the job, look, is going to speak more for you than, standing at a booth and showing a video of what you can do.
Right. I think this kind of ties into another shameless plug coming, just giving you a warning. At the DJNTV DJ Conference, Ben Stowe's going to be kicking it off Monday, February 24th. Ben is going to be talking, his talk is titled, It's Not Business, It's Personal. Because it's a personal connection that is not all the time. Not everybody wants that, but there's a lot of people who want to know Dan, the person, and then hire Dan, the DJ, compared to the days where they would hire, they want to know John, they would rather hire John, the person, than John, than somebody from Soundforce. That is out there for some people, that they like that. And I think that Hurricane mentions personality and style, and I think that it all ties together, is that, we're seeing that it's something that we've got to be different because we are different. And how do we sell or show our personality? You mentioned, of course, doing it with the emceeing such, and that's a fabulous way to be able to demonstrate some skills, a little quirky humor, whatever you can work into that and be in that moment in improv. Not everybody can do that in that situation, so it becomes a challenge. How do you set yourself apart? And if you can figure it out, that goes a long way to being memorable. So they will be like, I remember that guy. We should give him a call.
I thought it was funny too, just that last year. So what they give an opportunity for people to do these mini workshops at the one, and I because I'm the MC, I get to do the last one to make sure everybody's in the room at the time. It's awesome. But one of the other guys did a very similar topic as mine, and we were doing it. And we got talking, and as he's going, I'm like, crap, he's taking my idea. Crap. Like I'm just sitting in the back, just like. And finally, I was like, you know what? Heck with it. I'm just going to go out and I'm going to do my thing, and I'm going to present the same idea. I'm going to say, hey, it was a great idea. This is my spin on it.
Yeah.
And it was funny because like I'm watching like the couples and then like, yeah, they're watching whatever. And that like I'm watching when I go up and I'm seeing smiles and I'm like, okay, either I'm presenting this differently or they just weren't ready for it when he said it. But again, it's sometimes just presenting yourself and you even referenced a hurricane product or personality and style. Having that connection is going to make light years. And on the showroom floor, it's hard to do that.
Yeah.
It's hard to do that. So looking for those other opportunities to make those connections can be great.
So my suggestion for that is you put up a little PA speaker in the back of your booth. You get one of those little Carney headset microphones. You get a tank about yay big, fill it with water, put little ducks in it, and you can have people come and... Okay, maybe not. Sorry. Next one.
All right. Prepare handouts.
Okay.
And I don't mean on Microsoft Word that you're going to print out a piece of paper and you're going to hand to everybody that decides to come through. Get them done professionally. Whether you hire a designer or not, have the cards done professionally. Now I've heard everything from, you need to make them small, you need to make them big. Here's the thing. People are going to throw out half of what you end up putting in the bag. They probably won't even take a look at a lot of what's in the bag. So you need something that's going to stand out, something different to your card, whether that's a look to the card, whether that's the style of the card, whether it's the cut of the card, something that makes them, when they see it, it disrupts that pattern of the same thing that they're getting at every other booth. A lot of the handouts that I see are a lot of dark colors, or maybe they're all white. Like there are a lot of whites being used. Mine are bright blues and bright pinks. I had a designer, she ran with it. I was like, here's some ideas I want to do. I want them to be female friendly. And she's like, okay, I can handle that. And so I said, just take it and run. And she did. And it has been great for me, a great turnaround. With that, make sure you're loading up reviews. I mean, these are reviews that they're going to find on, your third-party sites. Excuse me. Sorry about that. That they're going to find on third-party sites, but those reviews are important because they, again, add that personal touch. Those other people are saying this about you, not you tooting your own horn, even though it's your card, but it's somebody else's words to what you're able to offer.
Excellent. I like that. It's got to be that unique. That you use the word disruptor, and I think that, again, if you're going to take one word out of that disrupting of the paper, sheet of paper, booklet, give them something unique and different. MJ would put a sticker. He would somehow work a sticker with his logo on it, and then the back would have his information, because MJ's a sticker guy. Mm-hmm. Find that disruptor. Good tip there. All
right. The next one. Pre-plan your booth. Now that sounds like an obvious type of thing to do, but I've seen a lot of people, myself included sometimes, who have just rolled in, kind of a general idea of what we're going to do. We bring the entire trailer. Let's just throw whatever we can into the booth. Definitely not. Pre-plan your booth, jot it out, measure it, set it up at home, take pictures of it, share those pictures with a bride, because we call it a wedding expo, but let's be honest, the ones who are really taking the time to look at it are same-sex couples or our females. The guys are along, they're worried about the playoff game that's going on or whatever else is happening, and they get drug along a lot of times. So make sure that you're getting a proper opinion of what your booth actually looks like. Don't ask another DJ, they're gonna lie. But set it up, and then the whole purpose of this is so that the day of, you can set it up quickly. And I recommend getting there early, setting up quickly, and then take the time to network with the other vendors, because that's some of the cool things about these shows is you get to kind of touch base with some of the vendors that you only see usually on wedding days, catch up, do those kind of things. And then you can also take some time just to prepare mentally, because for the most part, you're going to be bombarded in the beginning of the show just by bride after bride, after couple, after couple, after couple. And so you need to make sure that you are as ready to go for that as possible. And if you're setting your booth right up until the last second, you never get that, okay, now I'm ready.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned, of course, the attendees, and I want to branch off into this just a little bit. When we did 20 years ago, the bridal show was attended by the mother of the bride, maybe the mother of the groom and the bride, and maybe any of the wedding party, the bridesmaids. The last couple of bridal shows I was at, the one last year, and I think it was 2 years prior to that, I was surprised at the number of the guys there.
Mm-hmm.
And in the chat room, for those of you, Rick, if you just did a bridal show, how many couples were there compared to? I mean, if you had to give a ratio, would half the people there were the couples, and then the other half were the brides and her posse? I would be very interested with that, because this is actually one of the things that was shared. Is one of one of your tips talking about having the bride in your booth?
No.
Okay, then let's.
But that would be like number 7 on my list.
Well, let's just, because again we're talking the booth.
Yeah.
One of the things that people have talked about when designing the booth is that we've always had this idea that having a bride there in your booth who is a past client talking about you is gold. One of the folks that were talking about bridal booths a couple of weeks ago had talked about, today you need to have the groom in there also. You need to have a groom in there who's had that positive experience, because you have this younger generation of guys who want to be involved with the planning of the wedding and be involved with creating the day. Yeah, not all, but there are enough that they want to hear from a male perspective on what you could do for that day, which I thought was an interesting thing. I hadn't thought about that, because in essence we're still coming from the old school thought process. But when you plan that booth, you've really got to think about a lot of different variables than what we used to think about.
And I think it's important. I'd be cautious though to use just a groom, because it could be very easily construed to somebody that's walking by, especially if they don't have to stop and talk to your booth. It's going to be very easy for them to stop by and go, "Oh, he's the DJ and he's the DJ." It's a two-person operation, as opposed to, "Oh, he's a groom." Now, if you have some sort of, moniker or name tag or whatever, that's, that helps, but it's still going to be that first impression.
Right.
Get the couple together, or at least one of each from a couple. Yeah, that's an awesome idea. That really sets that apart.
Yeah. For those watching this later, in the chat room here, Rick mentions about a third were couples, and Day mentions that there were way more guys than Day had expected. So yeah, I think that's, something you guys out there listening tonight can think about. So cool, good booth.
Yeah,
plan, prepare.
And we could end up calling. A Hurricane added one other piece in there. About booth setup, having an open floor plan. Anytime I do a wedding show, I tell the organizer, do not give me a table. Do not give me this stupid 8-foot table that you have to give to everybody. Take that out of there. Just give me my spot. That's all I want. I want the open floor plan, and then I get the cocktail table, and all of my material is up there, because when they're walking by, I don't want them to have to reach down for anything.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to reach out. I want their eye contact with me as they're talking. I want it easy if I'm grabbing it off the table to give to them. I want it easy for me to grab. Yeah, and the scrims are easy. They're cheap, that you can get and put on these type of tables, and absolutely great idea.
So if you're doing bridal shows, Rick just dropped one little nugget here that is probably worth the admission to tonight's video. We were talking about couples there, and Rick mentioned that it was interesting to see how many of the guys were asking the majority of the detailed questions.
I think that has to do more with the vendor than the wedding. Possibly,
and I say that because I have worked with 3 of my weddings this year. The gentlemen were the ones who were planning it. Mm-hmm. Very, very little input from their fiance. Why that little statement is so valuable is that we make the assumption that the bride is doing it because it's her day, mm-hmm. and that's a dangerous assumption to have nowadays, especially if they're both there. Mm-hmm. If it's just her, obviously that's one thing, but that little idea, just a reminder that we're talking to both of the couple about their vision in their day. And until they give you the signals of which one's in charge or where you need to be talking, it's their day and their experience before narrowing it down to focus on one or the other. So good.
I think it's important. You can usually gauge that pretty quickly if you ask a couple questions. And I don't mean like, hey, what's your date?
Yeah.
You know, if you just ask personal questions, like one of my leading questions, I don't use this every time because then it gets monotonous, but one of the things I always ask is, who proposed and how did it happen? And if she starts talking and he just kind of does one of these and starts looking around,
yeah,
I know he's checked out. But usually what I'll end up getting is, oh, he did it. And I'll try, so how did you do it? And then if he starts jumping in and starts talking, now I've hooked them both.
Right.
And then I know exactly, as Rick said, you can start having that conversation. What do you like? What do you like? You know, what are some thoughts you have already? But I will say, I've had a lot of couples, and even this year, where when it's the guy who's been most involved, the communication I get is, this is the one thing that I wanted to make sure of. I wanted to make sure that I had a great party.
Yep, I've heard that one over the years too.
And so it was like he was in charge of making sure that music was what he wanted.
Mm-hmm.
And so I always find it funny, and that's why I said I wonder if it has more to do with the vendor than anything else, because that's what I've run into is when the guys jump in, it's because, I said I would take care of the music, or she wants me to do one thing. This is the one thing I felt really comfortable doing.
Yeah, I just haven't had that. I mean, that was a big thing, that I haven't had them come out and say that as much as it would have happened 10 years ago. Now it was, like one of the weddings I'm meeting with a couple, and it's like, so tell me about the day and what you're planning. And he starts talking, and the next thing you know, she's on her phone, Snapchatting to somebody. Anyway. All right. Next, what do we got?
Yes. Have a plan. Have a plan for what you want to get out of the show. Too many times, a lot of times we go in with this idea that we want to book on the spot, or, we're going to set up meetings. You need to go in with your message clear. Do you want to try and book on the spot? First off, I think it's going to be hard, but it can happen. And if your message is there and it's done in the right way, it can happen. If your message is to set up meetings afterwards, then you are doing that. If your message is just to make one more contact with them, for them to start to put a face, so that when you reach out after the show, again, make sure your message is clear. I kind of lean more towards the last one. I try and push a little for the meeting if I get a good interaction, but I also, I mentioned earlier about, do the shows in your area, make them go to every table. The ones I participate in, and that's majority of the ones in my area, that's what they do. That's their hook that the organizations have. We make sure that everybody goes to every table. Yeah, but what that also provides is the couples who are extremely overwhelmed because they go to 70 people in an afternoon and they have to talk to them. And some people want them to talk about everything, even if they have no interest. And so before they'll sign their page. And so they get so overwhelmed with that information. That's where the disruptor really becomes beneficial. But still, it's that idea of make sure your message is clear. What do you want out of them before you walk into that room? Yeah.
I mean, it's the old idea though. If you've got a goal and a target, then you can work towards that. If you don't have a goal or a target or an idea, you're floundering.
Yeah.
Simple as that.
Or you're just not, you're not going to have, like you said, you're going to be floundering. You're going to be searching for words. You're also going to feel like the day was a waste.
Yeah.
Because you're going to go here with one thing and here with another thing. And when it's all said and done, you're going to go, why did nobody want to talk to me? Because you didn't really give them a reason to want to.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Excellent.
All right. So that was 5. Number 6, this is kind of an easy, like I said, I only had 5, but we threw in one earlier. So hydrate. And not just the morning of, not just during, but we're talking the weeks leading up. You are going to talk more in that 3, 4, 5 hour show than you have in the entire year, other than when you did another show. It's just the matter of so many people coming in it's wintertime, so the air is dry. And so hydrate, leading up to, and along with that, make sure the day of you're having mints, something to kind of pop in your mouth, to suck on, to keep your breath smelling decent, and to keep that moisture going in your mouth, so you're not just going all the time.
Yeah.
Rick hits it. He says snacks. Make sure they're the good kind of snacks, not the stuff that's going to get stuck in your teeth, and make sure they're the quick. I found that I have difficulty with snacks during the show because when I had the time to actually eat the snacks, I'm sorry, let me phrase that. When I would need the snacks is when I'm getting bombarded.
Yeah.
And so I don't have the time to really pop that. So something quick, that's why I like the breast savers or something like that. You get a little something and you get that. That's all you have time for. I'm just gonna pop it in quick and be on my way.
Yeah, a little hygiene in general. You don't want to smell. You don't want to be that guy that has the breath that they can smell from 5 feet away.
And smooth hands and hand sanitizer.
Yeah, and make sure you watch your coffee intake. Actually, the day or two before something like that, a friend of mine who made the mistake of eating a seafood the night before and was sick from the seafood, he then had the thing where the night or like 2 days before a bridal show, he's like, I changed my diet. I go to a very basic diet for 2 days because I don't want to have the bad seafood situation, because he ended up spending a whole Saturday night in the throne room, and then Sunday when I saw him at the bridal show, he looked like death warmed over. So, and yeah, don't go do shots the night before either. Doing shots
of water, shots of Gatorade.
Yeah, well, maybe with the when the couples come by, Rick had mentioned champagne, so you could have do shots.
Let's go. I want to go on a little bit because there was something we talked about before the show that you saw online, and I saw the same type of thing. And I think it's important for us to bring this up, especially with regard to the bridal show.
Mm-hmm.
Listen to your couples. Right. So first off, if you haven't ever read Vicky Muncie's book, and I'm blanking, it's a personality book.
It's got 3 colors on it.
Thank you. Yes.
I don't remember
that's the book.
name
All
of
right.
it.
I'm so sorry, Vicky. But anyway, with that being said, it's got loads of great information about being able to help read your couples. And this is not one of those things where you're going to try and be fake to the couples, but this helps you understand where they're coming from. But listen to your couples and listen to the messages that they're saying. Don't get so stuck on your spiel, your sales lines, that you don't listen to what they're asking. If they're asking for you for XYZ, don't tell them about A, B, C, D, and E. Listen to what they're asking and give them what they're asking. Or if you legitimately cannot give them that answer, give them something that's going to lead them to that. And don't hide behind and don't hide behind this. Well, in order to tell you that, we've got to sit down and have a meeting, without explaining why that's even important. Listen, in order to fully be able to give you an accurate quote, I need to be able to understand what all you're looking for. And so here's a range. And we can get more specific. We just need to be able to understand a little bit better. We can talk now, you're bombarded with 8,000 other people, or we can talk where it's just us.
An example of that, Dan, is when we put the solar panels up on the roof of the office here. Went to the solar companies, and of course the solar companies are kind of a takeoff from the siding companies and window companies, where they want to get a salesperson out here, and then they do the pitch and they talk about everything and get to that. And it's like, I know what they are, I know what I want, and I want a price. Here's the pictures of the facilities, here's where the lines are. I need a ballpark. Well, I need a ballpark. Okay, it's going to be somewhere between 40 and 50,000. Great. That's what I needed to know. When can you come out and let's get this contract signed? That type of thing. It wasn't that I was looking to cheap or be cheap in a situation. I didn't want to waste 3 or 4 hours of time. If they're coming out here, I want a contract and I want them measuring so it's going to be going up next week type of thing. And I think that we get back to that click to buy, that people are busy. They want to get those answers. When they ask that question, they want an answer. And just assuming that, they're asking that question because they're looking for the cheapest price. Probably not.
Yeah.
And I hate going to a car dealership and you walk in there and there's the sticker with all the different things on there. And it's like, well, how much is this vehicle? Well, let's go into my office and we could. I don't want to go into your office. I want to know a ballpark of pretty close of what's this going to cost me. Well, there's a lot of variables, and it's like, yeah, there's one variable. It's called a door, and I'm using it. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'm alone in this one. There we go. 4 personality types you should know. Thank you, Robin. Robin keeps us on track. Awesome.
I like Robin. She helps us. Yeah, and so be prepared because they're going to want to know that stuff, and you got to give them something to go off of. While we're at it, Hurricane asked a very important question. I think this was not what we were talking about, but I think it's worthy of mentioning while we got a couple moments here. What kind of marketing material are we putting on tables other than flyers and cards? Any mints or pens? I don't mess with the pens. I know some other people do. The idea is they're going to walk off, and you're like, oh, great, they got my information, but yeah, I just don't see it happening. I mainly just stick to my flyers and my cards. And occasionally I'll put some mints out, kind of if I think about it. But I've also noticed that when I'm looking around, everybody else is putting candy.
Yep.
Everybody else is putting candy. So if the idea is that you're putting mints because you want to be sweet or whatever, everybody else is doing that. If you want to put it for the standpoint of, you know what, it's really easy for me to just reach over, take one, pop one, and it's right there, and I don't have to look like I'm digging into something to get my mints.
That's a possibility.
Then you have another look, and it's there if they want it. I don't think it's necessary. I think it's one of those things that you could do. They're looking for simple. They're not, think about this also. One of the complaints that we often get about wedding shows or whatever is they're people that are just looking for free stuff. If that is your client, then put everything free that you can give out. If that's not your client, if your client is looking for, value, if your client is looking for, high class production, if you're looking for that, they don't care about those types of things. You don't see somebody that walks into, a luxury car dealership we had car dealers tonight.
Yeah,
anyway,
we're kind of beating them
goes
up.
into a luxury car dealership and says, hey, can I get a keychain? Like, no. They don't care about that kind of thing.
And they're probably still $20 for a keychain.
Exactly. It's 100,000. Okay. But no, I think you can. I just don't think it's necessary. I think your flyers, your cards, the place that they're going to get that information from you, that's where your quality clients are going to want to see.
David asked about discount services or giveaways and such. This is something, David, my thought on this one is there's potential to use those. And I would have to jump back to the beginning of our conversation when Rick Webb, who's with us tonight, and again, thank you guys all of you for being with us tonight. We got a really nice crowd with us. Rick had mentioned the importance of having to be able to harvest that contact information, to have a landing page so we can gather an email address or something to that effect. And I think using that kind of a click funnel idea where they go to, hey, go here and fill this in and get something. I think in this day and age, there's enough of comprehension of that if I'm going to give you the email online, I'm going to probably want to get something, whether that is if you book our services and you'll get a free ink pen, or if you get a bottle of champagne sent to, whatever. I think there's room for that, but there's got to be something. If I'm going to give you something for free, i.e. me as a vendor going to give you as a potential customer something for free, there's got to be, I think that people understand there's going to have to be that give and take. So if you're going to do something, here's where that QR code or type of thing, hey, go to, DJJohnYoung.com/offer, and they go there and then they can say, hey, enter your email and you can get a coupon for $4,000 off your next Buick LeSabre you're going to be buying from 2001. So There's a possibility, but I think that would be where I don't think I would have it where people, sign a contract today and get this, because people don't shop. Yes, we want it quick and easy, but they don't drop money like that at these events.
That and the only place where I think that is an option or where it can have some weight is if you have a collection of potentials that you're just trying to really, and they're just not taking that last step, but you really want to work with them, then, hey, if you show up to the show, I've got a great opportunity for you. If you're willing to finally make that step here at the show, you can do that. Again, I'm not a big fan of that. I don't think it's going to work, but I could see in that rare instance, maybe that being that final little push, if you've got a couple that are really on the fence. The other thing is, when you discount your services, what is that saying? That your prices really aren't what you are saying they are in the first place.
Kind of a funny story about we had it where we would hit one bridal show in the one community, and there was a lot of overlap between the clients that came to both of those. So they saw us in one community, and it's like, okay, we're going to be at this other one next weekend, and if you are ready to sign a contract by next weekend, we are going to have it. We had picked up a bunch of Chicago cutlery knife sets. I think we had picked them up for like $40 or $50 a piece, and at that time, that was a pretty nice little steak knife and the whole block and the wood block and everything. They were kind of expensive at the time, but it's like if we were having people book at that show, we had, I think, 15 couples say at the show 1 that they were going to book us at show 2. So that week we went out and made sure we had all 15 or whatever we needed, I had enough of those there. And we get to the show, and 2 of them booked at the show. Ironically, all of them had booked. They either sent the contract in and didn't come to the show, or they booked after the show. And I didn't have anybody basically say, "Oh, I want, I need my knife set." They all knew it. They all knew they were there. It just wasn't a big enough deal. So we had knife sets going back to Target.
At least you get to return them.
Yeah, thankfully.
You in the chat too.
Yeah. I'm just trying to catch up. So sorry for those of you who are watching it later. If we all of a sudden get stared off into space or something, it's generally trying to catch up with the chat rooms. That there's discussion going on in a couple of different areas tonight between Facebook and YouTube. So again, thank you guys for being with us.
Absolutely. It's funny. I think, and I kind of mentioned this beforehand. I joked. I had this idea. Hey, 5 ideas for a wedding expo, and really, I mean, you could take and do 5, this could have been a whole month of topics. This could have been, 5 tips leading up to the expo, 5 tips for at the expo, 5 tips for follow-ups to the expo. And we didn't even touch on that.
Yeah.
Have a plan in place for the follow-up before you ever go to the show.
Well, that might be a really good topic for next week, Dan. Maybe we should just leave. Let's do the follow-up. The follow-up, and we'll take it from a couple of different angles where we get the information at the show, and then let's do a second one where we will, and Rick, if you could jump in with us, let's do the 2. We'll take information from at the show, and then we'll take information that we've collected via the website. And I think, Rick, that would be a good spot if you could join us next Monday night to kind of dig in with that one a little bit. I'd love to bounce some ideas and bounce back and forth on that. So we'll chat with Rick afterwards here if we don't get a message and see if that'll work. But yeah, I think next week let's do the follow up. Excellent. Yeah, that'll work. So yeah, that should be fun.
Awesome.
That should be fun because we're almost out of time.
Yeah, I was like, that could be a whole nother can of worms. But
yeah,
it's worth saying. So I'm glad we're gonna breach that topic next week. So good.
Wonderful.
All right, he says hit him up. So you have the contact details.
Yep, we'll talk. I'll be in contact and we'll get everything lined up for next Monday. So that's our show for next week.
So what else is coming up this week, John?
This week we've got an actually busy week. Tomorrow night, in the first slot, we've got Bill Herman's going to be talking to Jonathan Simmons, DJ Woo Pig from Arkansas. Jonathan's going to be speaking in Vegas for us at the DJNTV DJ Convention. DJNTV.com/show. Jonathan's going to be speaking, and this is his first time of speaking at a convention. And tomorrow night, he's going to kind of share a little bit of his passion and what he's going to be bringing to the stage in Las Vegas. Then the second slot, Ben Stowe is going to be talking we're going to talk about circuits and overloading circuits and what happens when it happens and how we can avoid it and different things for those times where we've got that outlet here and they've got the cooker over there and they've got the coffee pot over there and then they've got the PA system calling bingo numbers over there. We're going to talk about overloading circuits. And then Brian and I, what were we going to talk about tomorrow night? Oh, we had a pretty good topic too. It was in the Sunday email. I'm sorry, I forgot about what we were going to talk about. We had a pretty decent topic for once. For once.
I love it. You say for once.
For once. Wednesday, coming back. Then we have Jason Jones who will be coming in Wednesday night, and then we have the Dave and Jeremy will be back for Wedding Chat Wednesday night. So, yeah, those will be the live shows this week. Plus things going on during the day with shows with Randy Bartlett and Joe and Mike dropping this week. It's a shocking.
I'm finding the old. I'm not finding the right one. I was going to cheat. I was going to try and find it for us.
It's in Sunday. It was Sunday's email. It wasn't Thursday. I wasn't sure what we were going to be talking about. And then Sunday I dropped. I had it in there. Yeah, the shocking presentation by Ben. That's only fun when Bill's there and you can put the hat on and gets the. So, good. Well, take us home, then, Dan.
All right. So on that note, hopefully tonight you were able to grab some ideas, some things that maybe you hadn't thought about and can use them, or even just those refreshers that are always a good idea to have getting ready for this wedding expos that you are probably in the midst of now. And if not, will be very soon. So thank you very much for tuning in on your fine Monday evening or later on in the week. It's been our pleasure to be a part of it. And of course, part 2 next week, where we talk about some of the stuff that happens after is coming up next Monday, so don't forget to tune into that, 10 o'clock Eastern, 9 o'clock Central, and all the other time zones. Who cares? Thank you very much. Have a great night.
Good night, everybody.